You still play Destiny? Yeah, you're fucking gay. Hey everybody, it's Reckless. So it is January 4th, 2016, and at the time of this video, PlayStation Network is actually down for maintenance. So I figured I'd just do a video a little bit about what's been going on in my mind. And more so being the common quote that a lot of people keep saying is that Destiny is dead. Now, I won't necessarily agree with that. I just think that Destiny is lacking content and they need more things for us to do. Now, the majority of those people who actually say that Destiny is dead is actually those people who try to compare Destiny to an MMO. And if you played MMOs, you know that with MMOs, new content is always coming out. And it doesn't really help that microtransactions also play a part in that. But another part of that is those people who actually did the raid on hard mode, but they don't even have their character fully leveled up to light 320. And when I mean by fully leveled up, I mean their entire gear set. Then you got those people who just got bored of Destiny, just because shooting the same thing, gets repetitive, and things that get repetitive get boring. So let's see, what can Bungie actually do to get the everyday gamer, or not even the weekend gamer, constantly wanting to play Destiny? And the answer to that is actually quite simple. Give the gamers continuously monthly events with an S. Now, I know what a lot of people's gonna say. Reckless, we already have monthly events. We have Iron Banner. We have the Trials of Osiris that goes every Friday. And then we have the SRL now. What more can you want? Well, easy. There's a lot more than we want. So I will admit that the Iron Banner and the Trials of Osiris is definitely a success. However, the SRL has definitely been on the lower scale of the events, given that it's 3 weeks for only 2 maps. However, I'm not going to go into the whole SRL thing because I've already done that in a previous video. I will put a link to that video in the description below. But what I do want to get into, and I know a lot of people would actually love this idea, is faction wars. Now, this is just a concept that myself and a couple of other people came up with, and we think that it'd be a great idea for Bungie to implement in their monthly rotation for events. Now, what faction wars is pretty much a civil war within the faction system. How faction wars would actually work is you would have to wear a faction class item in order to gain points for that faction. Unfortunately, we only have 3 main factions, in which are New Monarchy, Dead Orbit, and Future War Cult. So those would be the only factions that you can actually participate in this event. Now, I do know that I did explain earlier how a lot of people have been complaining about doing the same things over and over again, like bounties and their dailies and everything. But during faction wars, that counts towards the faction points. So in a sense, it's giving you a reason to actually do them versus just doing them for the hell of them because you're bored. But not just bounties and dailies. Also, everything you do in PvP and PvE, such as whether you're winning a control match or you're completing a quest, those will actually also go towards points towards your faction. So pretty much, as long as you have to turn something in or complete something, those will go towards points towards your faction as long as you have that class item on. Now, let's talk about the reward system and how that would actually work. Unfortunately, it would still be RNG, but during faction wars, it'll be RNG based on your class item for the faction that you actually are in. So, in a sense, you will never get a Future War Cult gear, weapons, or anything Future War Cult like if you have a Dead Orbit class item equipped. However, we're not going to just stop at armor and weapons. We're also going to include ships, shaders, and maybe even, ghosts. With a 25% increase than what they normally drop at. Obviously, Bungie would have to add faction ghosts because we currently don't have that right now. Unless you actually want to count the Dread Explorer shell that you get from Arak Jalal as a dead orbit ghost. I'm not sure if you want to, but it's black. I guess it matches. So what about the actual winners of the faction wars? What would they get? Now this loot system will be based off of one of your character's registration. What that means is only one of your characters would only be eligible to go into faction wars and actually get a reward if you guys actually win. When you register a character, you will actually have to confirm it twice. That way nobody can actually complain to Bungie saying that they didn't know or they weren't sure if that's what they wanted to do. But we all know that some people will still complain. What this does is it prevents a Guardian that has multiple characters from using different factions. Faction wars would actually go from weekly reset to weekly reset. That way nobody is allowed to change their faction in between. As for the actual rewards for those who actually win the faction wars, you will get 15 strange coins, 15 motes of light, 5 exotic shards, and 2 faction tokens. Faction tokens can be used with your current faction vendor, and they will reward weapons or armor with random rolls. However, after you decide whether you want a weapon or armor, you will then again get another choice to decide which type of weapon or armor you would actually like. And just so it's clear, that should be per faction token. However, it won't just stop there. The very first faction winners will get an exclusive emblem and shader, along with another emblem and shader for actually being the winners of the faction wars. In order to obtain any of these rewards, you have to be an active player while faction wars is actually going on. Now, I'm not saying you have to be on Destiny playing for an undescribable amount of hours, but like anything, you don't win if you don't participate. So for all you Guardians who thought you were just gonna skate by choosing a winning faction and then going into faction wars by doing nothing, no, it's not gonna work that way. Now, wait for it, bang, Phantom bitches. Now, let's actually talk about scheduling and how that would actually work on a month-to-month basis. So right off the top, we're gonna cut SRL down to 2 weeks for 2 maps if Bungie does plan on keeping that whole little rotation there. The first week of each month will be Faction Wars. The second and third week will be SRL, while Iron Banner still holds the end of the month. And Trials of Osiris will go normally as it does every Friday. However, if you participate in Trials of Osiris while Faction Wars is actually going on, you will still get credit for your faction if you do have that faction class item on. And if Bungie wanted to add faction sparrows too, then I wouldn't object to that at all. So Faction Wars is just an idea. It is not something that Bungie said that they were going to do. However, it would be a nice implementation if they actually did do it. I am, however, sure that if we as a Destiny community actually pressure this issue on Bungie, then they will make it happen. Because they know that they want a lot of people to keep coming back, keep playing the game, and if they know that this is what we want, they will make it happen. Whether they do it now or when Destiny 2 comes out or whatever the next Destiny game's actually going to be named, it would be great. And it definitely would be a great addition to the game. However, this is just one of many things that Bungie can do to have players come back and play Destiny. This idea of Faction Wars is just a concept, and given the time, I probably would make a lot of tweaks to it in order to make it what the actual community wants. We as a Destiny community have been asking for Sparrow Racing for the longest, and it came out. So we do know that Bungie does listen to the community. So if we can get the idea of Faction Wars out to them and actually, make it a solid concept, that way it can actually be a blueprint in their studios, that would be great. So if you guys have any ideas about Faction Wars or changes that you would actually make, let me know. Because I definitely would like to hear feedback from the community on what can actually happen for Destiny in the sense of how faction wars should be taken and which direction it should actually go in. Or if you guys have any other ideas or thoughts that would actually make Destiny better, let me know in the comments below about that too, because it definitely needs to be and wants to be heard. So this brings us to the end of the video. Let me know what you guys think about the video in the comments below. Like, comment, and subscribe. This is Reckless. I will see you guys later. And don't forget, you get hurt, hurt them back. You get killed, walk it off.